We're going to be reviewing an algebra skill where we solve an equation with variables on both sides. Now these are going to be equations where we have the same variable on both sides, but we're going to be working to make sure that we get everything in the correct order and then we solve for x. So in this case we have x plus 2 is equal to 3x. What we want to do is we want to combine like terms first. So when we combine like terms first, we need to be able to switch one of the sets of variables, so one of the terms that has a variable in it, to the other side. So in this case, I'm going to make my life easier, and I'm going to say I'm going to subtract x from both sides. Now, what that does for us is I had a positive x here, and so it's going to cancel it out on the left side. So what I'm left with is 2 is equal to, now 3x minus x would be 2x. I could have done it the other way where I subtracted 3x, but if I subtract x, that's easier for me because then I'm dealing with positive numbers. And so since I combined like terms, I have no zero pairs, and I'm going to do the opposite operation of multiplying by 2 would be dividing by 2. So I'm left with 1 is equal to x. That was a pretty simple example, so let's go on to something that's a little bit more involved. And when we do that, we end up with 5x plus 9 is equal to 7x plus 5. I'm going to do the same thing here. I need to take one of the terms with an x in it and switch it over to the other side. In this case, I'm going to take the 5x and put it on the opposite side. So because it's positive, I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. And so this goes away. I'm left with 9 is equal to 2x plus 5. It's important that we're making sure that our columns remain straight and we're keeping track of what's left on either side. Now this 9 is still positive here, so I'm keeping track of those signs in my head and on my paper to make sure that I'm dealing with positives and negatives correctly. So I have 9 is equal to 2x plus 5. So I'm going to make a zero pair, that is a number that goes with whatever we're pairing with the x to make a 0, because plus 5 and minus 5 is 0. So I need to do the same thing to the other side. Transfer my equal sign down. 2x is equal to 9 minus 5, which is 4. And I'll divide by 2 on both sides. That's the opposite operation of multiplying by 2. So 2 is equal to x. I've kept everything straight. I've brought my equal sign all the way down, making sure that I'm keeping track of what's on either side of the equation at any given time. Third example, a little bit more complex. We obviously have x terms on either side here and here. But what we're dealing with this time is we're going to have an extra step where we use the distributive property. So I'm going to use red to help us keep track of the distributive property. And I draw these arrows, meaning that I'm going to multiply whatever's on the outside of the parentheses by what's on the inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to bring down my 21x equals. Now, this first arrow here is 3 times 2x, so that's going to be 6x. Keep my addition sign. Then 3 times 30, which is 90. And so now I've gotten rid of the parentheses by using the distributive property. And so what I can do now is I'm going to do the same thing I did in the previous two examples. I need to switch one of the x terms over to the other side. But in this case, because 21 is more than 6x, I'm going to subtract the 6x from this side. And so I've got 15x left is equal to 90. So this, once again, went away. So 15x is equal to 90. And I'm going to do my opposite operation here. I'm multiplying by 15. So to undo that, I need to divide by 15. So I'll divide both sides by 15. And I'm left with x is equal to 6. So we had the extra step here of the distributive property. But once we get rid of those parentheses using the distributive property, we see that we have the same process, once again, of combining like terms, finding our zero pairs, and then doing opposite operations. Here are a couple that you can do on your own. If you would like, go ahead and pause the video at this time if you'd like to attempt these. They'll just give you some extra practice at doing what we've been doing. So go ahead and pause the video at this time if you would like to practice on these. I'm going to switch to the next slide. It has another 4 practice problems. So if you're done with those 4, go ahead and let the video keep playing, and you can pause on the next slide to do these also. On this slide, we've got a couple that have the distributive property in them. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video at this time, you can get some extra practice on these 4 problems.